Greetings, Commanders. So there's been a lot of talk about the video I made where I was criticizing Frontier Development's decision to make a hauling-only community group goal, with a lot of folks coming out and saying, well, I actually like hauling, or, if you don't like it, you don't have to do it, or otherwise, there's been just so much content around AX, it's refreshing to have content that has not something to do directly with the fire grids and the anti-casino war. So I thought I'd kind of like just explain a little bit more my reasoning and my thinking, because all those points are legitimate and they actually make a ton of sense. But the point I was making in my original video, I think went a bit beyond that, and I think it's worth explaining and elaborating a bit further on. So first and foremost, community goals. What are community goals really meant to do? They are meant to bring the community together. There are different ways to do that. Like the way Frontier Development does it is they create a competitive setting focused and centered around a particular system so that people converge into that particular zone of a galaxy, and assuming they are in open play, they are more likely to bump into each other than if they were kind of doing their own thing all around the galaxy. That's one way of doing it. However, that breeds competition. It breeds haves and have-nots. It creates a situation where a lot of folks put time and effort into the game, which they might not have more of, and still don't come out with a reward of that particular activity. It's not a good thing, in my personal opinion. A better way to go about community goals is to make it so that the community as a whole needs to come together and either work together and succeed and everybody gets a reward, or not, and as a result, nobody does. That is a better way to build community, which I think other games have successfully pulled it off and shown that is just a much better and much more effective way to create a sense of community within a particular gaming environment. So I don't like the 50-50 split. I don't like the top 50% X for a particular reward, regardless of anything else. I feel that community goals should be cooperative and collaborative, and we should all win or lose as a group. The competitive nature has its place in a game where things like PvP and alike are part of the overall experience, but not in the community goals as they are stated, I believe. Especially not in situations where the activity is hauling, where competitive hauling rewards little more than having a large ship with a ton of cargo and a lot of time on your hands. So that's the first part of my argument, and the first part of the argument why I feel that the current community goal is unhelpful towards community building. The second part of the argument is alignment between activities and rewards. The 64-ton corrosive-resistant cargo rack has only been awarded once before in the top 10% of community goal, which, by the way, I couldn't attend back in the day because I was out of town. To me personally, that module is extremely valuable for anti-casino activities. My Chieftain runs a 64-ton rack. My Crate Mark II runs a 64-ton rack. My Phantom runs a 64-ton rack. Many of the ships that I use related to and pertaining to sampling activities, including my Type 9, run a 64-ton rack if they could, but are forced to run without because they don't have one. Lacking a 64 corrosion resistance cargo rack means that I am bound with trade-offs when it comes to the anti-casino activities I perform. I can use a 16-ton corrosion resistant rack, but then I am limited as far as the number of limpets I can carry into battle by a factor of 4, so a very significant factor. Or I can run without a corrosive resistant rack, but then I am limited with regards to the abilities that I can do in the game. I cannot collect Fargate hearts, or if I do, then I have to rush to a station because my ship starts falling apart with corrosion damage to modules and the like. Or similarly, if I'm doing spires and collecting materials for spire sabotage missions, I cannot do that with any scale or effect. I have to kind of do trips of like 16 or 32 ton rounds, which just freaking takes forever because the vast majority of the time for that kind of activity is just spending traveling to and from. So there's some real benefit to anti-casino activities of having a 64-ton corrosion-resistant cargo rack. And the hauling sees community goal that has been established to award one candidly has nothing to do, neither narratively or gameplays-wise, with anti-casino combat. I appreciate that there are other use cases where corrosion-resistant cargo rack may be warranted, like science in the case of our friends at Canon. Like, they certainly use corrosion-resistant cargo racks too, and I'm sure they would benefit from having them as well. But they're not traders at heart. They're, first and foremost, game researchers, if you will, and explorers to a degree. And maybe they'll disagree with me, and they'll correct me, and they'll certainly be right if they do that. So there's an important alignment with regards to if you're asking people to put time and effort in the game, especially in a large sandbox games like Elite, it should be aligned to the activities that they enjoy and want to do, with some specific exceptions. Like if you want them to try some other particular type of activity which is novel and you think interesting, like for example, go and explore the Titan Graveyard. That was a fantastic community goal. It was great. It was really well designed. It took a while to find the component, but still, it let people explore like a new part of a game, which looked awesome. And again, it was everybody who turns one of those in, which is a very small amount, wins. It was great. That's how you design community goals. Like the instead idea that you force people who want to do combat in the game to just haul stuff from point A to point B to get something that is actually materially going to improve their experience in the activity that they do care about is just poor game design in my book. Again, others may disagree, but that's how I personally feel with regards to the choice of locking a highly effective anti-Xeno module behind a hauling community goal. So that's the second effect of why I believe that as a whole, this community goal has generally been poorly designed. And the third and last one is, at least in prior occasions, Frontier Development has given a choice. Like you could get similar rewards by either doing bounty hunting or by doing hauling. So you had a choice. You could say, I like hauling, let me go hauling. Or I don't, but I like bounty hunting and shooting things, so I'm going to go do that. So you gave players agency and choice. And that's a good thing, again, in terms of gameplay design and game loop design. In this case, for reasons that I personally cannot comprehend, you've removed that agency and said, everybody who wants that module just has to haul. And that's not fun, at least for those who don't enjoy hauling. It isn't, but care about that module. You could say, well, who cares? If you don't enjoy it, don't do it. But then you're locked out of content that, again, makes your experience and the activities that you do enjoy better and easier. So again, that's my general reasoning as to why I kind of came out and said that we're being punished with regards to the community goal that was created. Others may disagree. You may have different feelings. I'm not here to bash or dish on Elite or Frontier Developments. I love the game. I very much support the developers of like the game I spend the majority of my time on. But I also feel that they're not immune from critique when there is legitimate argument for critique, such as in this case. That being said, hopefully this kind of explains a little bit what's going on in my head and a little bit more of where I'm coming from with regards to the criticism. Not everybody's going to agree, and that's okay. We're a large community. That's part of the beauty of Elite. It's an incredibly diverse galaxy with commanders that come from all walks of life and enjoy all kind of different activities, and that's part of what makes this community wonderful. With that, Commander Meccan, over and out, and glory to mankind.